We will get started. I see there are a few more people coming in, but we have so much information to go through. It's probably a good idea to start right now. Hello and welcome to the annual WOW study. I'm Santo Lagati from Retail Council of Canada. I'm the VP of Marketing and Member Services here. We are very proud to partnered today with Leger to release this annual 14th edition of this survey, today focused on in-store. At RCC, we are the voice of retail and work to help retailers since 1963 on issues that matter to them. We partner a lot with Leger on various surveys throughout the year, including for many of you online, our annual holiday retail shopping survey. And we enjoy this relationship and are very proud to bring together our retailers, both members and non-members here today, to listen to these amazing results. Just so that you know, if you have questions, please put them in the Q&A and we will address them after the session. I will make sure to collect those and bring those forward to our panelists. And without further ado, I'd like to introduce our panelists today from Leger, Luc Dumont and Christian Burke, who will walk us through the results. Welcome.
Hello, Santo. Thank you. Christian?
Yes, hi. So basically, Luke, I'll let you do the introductions to the study, take us through our special edition, because we've got additional questions we asked this year in the context of inflation. And then I'll take it over to actually sort of drum roll and introduce our winners in each of the different sectors of retail that we've measured.
Amazing. Thank you, Christian. So hello, everyone. Great to be here. This is a really special day for us at Leger when we unveil the top performers in terms of in-store experience. On Thursday, we'll have the digital experience webinar at the same time. Today, we're going to be talking about the Ontario results and Western Canada. So the WOW study is really powerful in that it contains quite a large number of key metrics on that in-store customer experience. And retailers use it to see what their strengths and weaknesses are vis-a-vis their competitors. And we look also at things like store irritants, things that people possibly dislike, but also like. It's a multi-sector study, so we evaluate 25 different sectors. A lot of different retailers are measured in this study. So the way that we go about this is just in Ontario, we surveyed more than 12,000 people, 15 years of age or older. And this allows us to provide results based on plus or minus 300 respondents per retailer. Each respondent only evaluates 4. So basically, we ask them as a first question when they get to the survey intro page, which of the following retailers, I think there were 162 this year, have you been to recently? And they select all of the ones that they have been to in the recent past. And then we select 4 at random so that they can evaluate them. It's important to note that they evaluate them in isolation. They don't compare retailers, so they'll answer questions about retailer 1, then 2, then 3, and then 4. The study is conducted online utilizing our proprietary panel called LEO, Leger Opinion, highly representative, and all of the surveys are built to be mobile first, so it's easy for people to do them either on their laptop or on their mobile device. And the results are weighted slightly to make small socio-demographic adjustments. So, last year we presented data on the impact of labor shortages on the in-store experience. And I mean, this is still a very topical issue. We were interested this year in understanding the impact of the current economic context and inflation on consumer behavior. To things that are really top of mind with everyone. And we really wanted to answer the following question. Have consumers changed their behaviors, and has this had an impact on their shopping experience? We also looked at the impact of loyalty programs and rewards, both in terms of usage and in terms of impact on overall experience and contribution to retailer loyalty. But let's start with this. One of the key components of the study, which I mentioned before, there are several measures in the WOW study, but one of them focuses on irritants experienced during the last store visit. So we asked consumers to select all the irritants they had experienced during their last visit and which had had a negative impact on their experience. They're shown a list of 41 different irritants, and they select those that they had experienced during their last visit. Across all sectors, an average of 32% of consumers had a perfect experience. So they selected no irritants, but that's great. But it also means that a large proportion of consumers said that they did experience at least one irritant during their last visit to a retailer. The main irritant, no huge surprise here, is the general price increases that people have noticed, and that was mentioned by 12% of consumers. Next came lack of staff, waiting time at checkout, running out of stock during promotions, and the retailer not having the product the shopper wanted. Of course, some of these are echoes of issues that became front and center in recent years, i.e. the labor shortage, something that's very much still with us. And it's really important to note that these percentages reflect all categories, that the numbers themselves will vary greatly from one sector to another. When we prepare a report specifically for a client, we look at their current sector of activity, specifically for that reason, because the metrics will change. For example, this year in the grocery sector is one of the hardest hit, particularly when it comes to price increases. And the clothing sector as well was quite affected by irritants this year. But in light of this, have consumers changed their behaviors and developed new purchasing strategies? And the answer is a resounding yes. Just over half of the consumers we spoke to told us that they've changed their behaviors in response to the current economic context and inflation. 33% say they've changed their behavior slightly, and 19% significantly. That's a pretty big number, and it's certainly shaken up all sectors. Wallets are not as elastic as they used to be, so if it costs more to buy groceries, for example, consumers have to spend less elsewhere or change some of their behaviors. Now, before we get to the behaviors, let's look at the sectors that are most affected by these changes in behavior. There are 5 sectors that are most affected by the economic context and in which consumers have changed their buying habits the most. In women's apparel, 61% of people say they've changed their habits. Similar proportions are observed for beauty, natural products, groceries, and toys and games. Those that are least affected, at the bottom of the list there, we've got pharmacy, convenience stores, pet products, hardware, and electronics. With the exception of grocery stores, consumers have changed their habits mainly in sectors where price increases have been observed, but where it's easier to postpone or compress purchases, I guess. In the case of grocery stores, we're seeing changes in banners or the adoption of purchasing strategies such as increasing purchasing of private label, being more mindful of promotions and products that are on sale, and perhaps buying fewer premium products, things of that nature. So let's look at some of those other behaviors adopted by consumers due to the economic context. Pretty interesting stuff. So across all sectors, the most frequent change is to wait until products are on sale or promotion. So consumers are much more likely to be waiting for the right time, right? They do more research, they look at flyers, they pay more attention to promotional offers. And then in second place, others tell us they continue to go to these retailers, but they reduce their purchases when they go there, so they buy fewer things. One of the ones I find most interesting is the fact that people, I think 14% here, say that they will make fewer unplanned purchases. So impulse purchasing is down, and people will stick to their shopping list, right? They'll have an idea before they walk in of what they want, and that's what they stick to. Now that's even more noticeable in the grocery sector, pharmacy, and beauty. So given that consumers tend to purchase fewer items in store that are not on their list, it's pretty important for retailers to, effectively communicate their current sales or promotions so that the products make it to the consumer's list before they go to the store. So flyers are important in this context, and promotions in general. Finally, in the top four, an average of 13% of our respondents said that they had reduced the purchase of non-essential or luxury products in stores. Taking all sectors together, only 2% said that they had increased their purchases at certain retailers, which might seem counterintuitive, but by sector, again, this can reach 10%. For example, discount banners, there's an uptick there. Uptick in terms of incidence and the number of products that people will be buying from these retailers. And we're even seeing people who are saying that they are starting to buy certain product categories at discount retailers that they hadn't previously bought before. So pretty big shift there. So to summarize, really the 5 key observations this year is we're seeing an uptick, as I've just mentioned, in terms of discount banner visits. People tend to concentrate their purchases in discount banners that they already go to. So they, as I again just mentioned, purchase more product categories, fewer impulse purchases, which we've talked about, and planning. I think planning is one of the key ones. People really want to wait for that good promotion, for that good sale. So again, it's important to be front and center and really communicate that you have these things happening and convince the consumer that now is the right time and not wait further. And of course, all of the other coping mechanisms that we've seen consumers adopt due to inflation and the current economic context. Another area of focus for us this year was loyalty, and how loyalty programs, I mean, we all know, have become pretty important when times are tough, right? So people want to get back. We looked at loyalty, rewards, and recognition programs in terms of usage of in-store execution, perception, and contribution to retailer loyalty. I'm presenting some data here, but there's a lot more in the full study. These are the top 10 retailers with the highest percentage of loyalty program usage. Zehrs, right up there at number 1, with 98% of the people we talk to saying that they use the card when they go to the store. Pretty impressive. And that's a PC Optimum program. And in fact, the top 7 here, as you can see, are offer the PC Optimum program. And the percentage of usage is very high. Then there's Sephora with 70% of its visitors using the loyalty program, which is really good to have such an engaged loyalty program group of people. Global Pet Foods is a good one as well. Chapters Indigo and Metro. So these are 10 retailers with a very high proportion of active loyalty members. And this is not popularity, right? It's really usage. So it's important to note that. We evaluated the perception of generosity, offer personalization, and loyalty contribution among users of these different programs by retailer. So in terms of generosity, SoftMock comes up right up at the top, gets the highest mark for program generosity. So what it gives back to the loyalty program users. Next, we have Ardeen, Sage Natural Wellness, Lego, and Costco for program generosity. For personalization, users of Chocolat Favori program gave the highest marks, followed by 7-Eleven, Laura, Garage, and Lego. And finally, for loyalty contribution, so basically, does the program make me more loyal to this retailer? Costco comes first, followed by SoftMock, Value Mart, 7-Eleven, and the Beauty Shop. Now, there are many more measures of loyalty that are presented in the full WOW report, including in-store execution, I guess you would call it, like are customers being reminded of the program's existence and benefits while in store? Are they being asked at the register whether they're a member or not? Things of that nature. So a lot more data in the full report. The last piece of data that I want to share to you before moving on to what everyone's here to hear, which is the WOW ranking, is this one here. So we're seeing that there's a very big relationship between happy, engaged, and passionate employees, or the perception of that at least, that this has an impact on sense of belonging with a retailer, but also on consumer loyalty. So it's really important to have a workforce that lives and breathes your product, can convey that to the consumer, that they're happy, that they love the products that they sell, that they're engaged in the category. The sectors that were rated highest by their visitors on this aspect of having happy, committed, and passionate employees were beauty, chocolate, ice cream, and coffee, pets and pet food, and alcohol and other substances, natural products, and specialized food. On the flip side, unisex clothing, footwear, grocery stores, department stores, and convenience stores received lower ratings. But there's a lot of learning to be had here. Obviously, in the categories at the bottom, perhaps fewer sort of long-standing full-time employees, perhaps a more varied workforce. There are many reasons why this could be the case. But I won't go on and on because I could. There's a lot of data to talk about. I will now turn it over to Christian to talk about the best in-store experiences in Ontario.
All right, thank you, Luke. As Luke has already mentioned, we see sort of price popping up in different aspects of the study. He alluded to some of the major ones in terms of people sort of adopting coping strategies that they were not adopting before this high inflation period that we've all lived through. Another way that we are seeing this pop up, and as we get into the scores for the retailers by their industry sectors, out of the 162 retailers that we evaluated, 22 were new. So we don't have tracking evidence in terms of how perceptions may have shifted. However, out of the remaining ones, the 140 retailers that remain where we do have historical data, only 24% see a significant increase in their WOW score this year. If you're part of the lucky ones, congrats. Which means that for the majority of retailers, well, at least for 43% of them, they actually see a significant decrease in their WOW retail scores this year, which is probably an indication that price is also having an impact on customers not walking into the store smiling because they are looking forward to buy neat stuff to treat themselves or whatever it is they want to do at your store, but maybe they're coming in with a heightened level of anxiety over pricing that probably has sort of a shadow effect or impact on scores that they give in other dimensions of the WOW study. Only a third of retailers are stable. So almost half of retailers this year, we see this varies greatly by sector, will see a significant decrease in their scores. If you look at this historically, 2019 pre-pandemic was the best year in terms of WOW scores. Retail was doing fantastic back then. Then, of course, the pandemic hit. It had a direct impact on our in-store experience for the reasons that we all know. But 2022, we saw results being back to pre-pandemic times. It was actually a very good year last year. However, this year, not so much. But let's get into the scores themselves. Now, the way the score is built up, we do mention or measure, as Luke mentioned, in-store experience on a number of indicators. But the ones that are actually part of the WOW score, if we go to the following slide, are actually the first 5 dimensions that you will see at the left-hand side of your screen. 3 of them are about products, perceived product quality, product variety, and making discoveries when I walk into the store. 2 are related to price competitiveness, and promotional activities. Then comes service. Courtesy, competency of the staff, attentiveness to customers' needs, efficiency at checkout, the importance, basically the sense that you are important when you are in that store. We also then have store layout and store ambiance, 4 variables related to that aspect of the delivery of in-store customer experience. Then we've got customization, the sense of belonging, which is basically this store was designed with somebody like me in mind, and then building customer loyalty through whether it's a loyalty program, a rewards program, whether it's signing on to the newsletter, whatever loyalty initiatives you might have at your store. So these are the variables that are part of the WOW score. What we do then is we look at everybody that gives you an 8 out of 10 or more, and we weight that score according to the importance of that variable in terms of driving your NPS score and likelihood to revisit. So using these key metrics, we can sort of give each variable its appropriate weight in the actual score itself. Now, again, we don't want to beat up the issue of price, but what we are seeing in almost all sectors this year is that the price variable, which was rarely in the top 5 in terms of the ones that are having the most impact on in-store customer experience overall in NPS, what we are seeing is that it's the top number 1 or number 2 in most retail sectors this year. We're seeing dramatic increases in the importance of price in grocery, in hardware. We're seeing it as well in clothing and in other sort of key sectors of retail, where this variable this year is having a more of an impact on your overall score. And as we're seeing that 43% see a significant decrease in their WOW scores, it is mathematically related to the fact that the price variable is more important than it used to be in making up the overall WOW scores. But I did not want to be depressing to any point, so let's go right to our winners. We'll first look at the retailers that deserve sort of a gold star, as we used to have in grade school, for those of us who were likely to get them, lucky enough to get them. And let's look at our winners. This year, there's actually 14. Last year, we had 9 that actually have a score of 90 to 100. So the top of the very top, they would all get an A+ at any university in Canada. So this year, we have actually 14 that have a score of 90 or more. And in 14th place, we have Nespresso. It's their 5th time now in the top WOW scores for Ontario. So congrats to them. They're fairly consistent in delivering that in-store customer experience. Where they do exceptionally well on the 16 variables that are part of the score is perceived product quality, but also all of the in-store service, the welcoming, the ambiance, and also Nespresso scores extremely well on the omni-channel integration of their online versus retail presence. So they do very well at that as well. And also, it is a key component of all retail today. In 13th place, we have Lego. Lego, it's their 3rd time as part of the top WOW ranking companies in Ontario. Product quality is a huge contributor to that high score, but also people feel they have attractive stores, and their use of digital inside the store also makes them one of the best in terms of silent selling inside the store and how that contributes to the overall experience at Lego. In 12th place, we have David's Tea. Even though they don't have the same retail presence they used to, the stores that still remain actually get a very high score of 91.1. And of course, at David's Tea, it's mostly about the product itself, so product variety and quality, but also about the ambiance in the store, which people still enjoy at David's Tea. In 11th place, we have Bath & Body Works. Bath & Body Works is number 1 out of the 162 retailers in Ontario for promotional activities. And we know, and Luke made the point that the race for the best deal is on, given the context that we're living in. So Bath & Body Works actually the best retailer in terms of promotional activities, according to its visitors. After that, we actually go on to Ren's Pets. Ren's Pets is back in the top ranking companies this year for Ontario. So congrats to them for making it back. And there's something about, and we'll get into pet food stores and pet products a little bit later on, but there's nothing like treating your pet. So all of them are actually fairly good at driving positive customer experience, but Ren's Pets just a notch above the others in that category. We then have MAC Cosmetics, number 1 in terms of competence of employees on the ground. Extremely important, again, in beauty. You want to talk to somebody that can provide advice about your beauty regime, but also about how to apply it, and all that we know about that sector in particular. So good on Mac for being #1 in terms of employee competence in the survey. Then we're moving on to Purdy's. Purdy's actually sort of shows up as one of the best in terms of product quality. That's why people go there, but also ambiance. They actually are in that top 10 in terms of delivering ambiance in the store itself, but also availability of staff in the store. Smaller square footage stores tend to have an advantage when it comes to availability of employees, but they're making the most out of it. So congrats to Purdy's for being there this year again. Then we move on to Sage. Sage is actually #1 when we actually ask its visitors to say, how would you rate them in terms of their omni-channel experience? We do give a definition of what that is to consumers as well. They actually rank first out of all of the retailers that we actually survey, and that's according to their store visitors. So very positive from this perspective. They do well pretty much everywhere, but that edge in terms of omni-channel brings them to 7th place. In 6th place, we've got the Body Shop. Body Shop actually one of the best in terms of steadily delivering very high scores in terms of loyalty initiatives. And they're rewarded by their customers again this year with an overall score of 93. #5 is Pennington's at 93.2. Pennington's is the #1 ranking, and it was the same last year and the year before. You know, that specific variable where we asked to rate the store on, this store was designed with somebody like me in mind, knowing your customer's segment, catering to that customer segment, and making them feel that it's the place where they belong. This is where they are #1, and this is why they're consistently in the top ranking companies for in-store experience in Ontario over the past 10 plus years. Then we move on to our 3rd place finisher, and in 3rd place, we've got M&M. M&M, efficiency at the cash, efficiency of the overall shopping experience at M&M is where they rank extremely high. They're also 2nd in terms of availability of staff in the store to provide help and context with their shopping experience. Very much sort of a customization as well of their loyalty program is something that is appreciated at M&M as well. And they've been sort of steadily over the past few years part of that top 10, and here they are again. So congratulations to M&M. Lindt is actually in 2nd place this year. Lindt, they're #2 next to Purdy's in terms of product quality, and as well with Nespresso making up that top 3 overall. Visitors enjoy the ambiance at Lindt. And also signage in the store. Again, when it comes to food, silent selling is extremely important and a strategy to get people to actually put the product in the basket. So Lindt does extremely well from that perspective. #1, we've measured them for 6 years. They've been in the top retailers in Ontario for 6 years in a row. This year, they are #1. And Lee Valley Tools is something of a unique case in retail. People still enjoy the catalog, if some of us remember what that is, because the Lee Valley catalog is unique. Their online experience, we'll see that on Thursday for those of you who will join us for the online experience. They also do extremely well. And the reason why is quality of the products they actually offer for purchase, variety of the products, making new discoveries. And if you've been or lived the Lee Valley Tools experience, it's all about the craftsmanship behind the products themselves, and it's products for craftsmen and women. So this overall sense of I think some of the shoppers actually have Lee Valley tattooed on their body somewhere, and they're rewarded for it by their visitors. Now, if we move into our actual, and congratulations again, to get a score 90 plus is extremely difficult. So congratulations to all of our winners. Now, if we move by sector, so we've grouped them, and of course, the dynamics within those sectors is very different. In terms of alcohol, the wine rack is again #1 in Ontario. a score. I mean, they're within sort of a stone's throw of making it to that 90+ category. They were there one year, and they're very close to it again this year. The welcome into the store, attentiveness of the staff, competence of the staff is also three areas where the wine rack comparatively does extremely well in the WOW study, and they're rewarded with very high score. The wine shop at 84, still fairly positive scores. LCBO lost 6 points this year, a lot on product variety, but also on price perceptions for LCBO. So they've been hurt a little bit in the current context and are in third place. For convenience stores, very close race between 7-Eleven and Circle K. For 7-Eleven, their loyalty initiatives actually gives them a slight edge over Circle K, and explains in large part why they are just in front of Circle K. Moving on to grocery, because that's a major component of what we do. Last year, Fortino's was number one. They took over first place from Longo's last year, and now Longo's is actually back in first place with a score of 74.8. But the major thing about the grocery sector is most of the players in that sector are seeing a decline in their WOW scores compared to last year. We know it's been one of the hardest hit sectors in terms of price increases and challenges when it actually comes to getting the product on the shelf at a price that is decent for consumers. And consumers are basically showing some of the impact of that in terms of their overall score. So most of the players actually going down a few points in grocery. Even for some of the discount banners are seeing a decline in prices, but they're the ones that are resisting better in terms of overall numbers. Those who are sort of in the sort of slightly higher price range are seeing a decline in their scores this year. So this is something, if you are in that business sector, to closely watch over the next few months as well, to really see how prices or price perceptions has had an impact on your scores. So a tough year for grocery in terms of WOW results. In pharmacy, we see Pharma Choice at first place. And overall, what we're seeing is that the smaller your square footage, the better your score. So in terms of all variables related to staff competency, availability, these are areas where smaller pharmacies tend to do a lot better. If you look at the lineup that is there, the larger, more retail-oriented pharmacies tend to be more at the bottom of the ranking for pharmacy because by and large, they don't offer the same experience. They're almost not in the same business sector as some of the smaller size pharmacies, with Pharma Choice being mostly present in rural regions of Ontario, being there at the top of the listing. Now, if we move to department stores. Holt Renfrew is actually in first place this year. Last year it was Simons, but Simons is seeing a slight decrease in terms of price perceptions and variety of products offered, which now makes them third in the department store sector. Canadian Tire is on the increase as well. And for them, it's mainly due because of promotional activities and price perceptions that they're making it up the ladder this year in terms of department stores. Holt Renfrew, number one this year, mostly due to a variety of product, quality of product, and ambiance into the store, where Holt actually is the best in class for department stores. In terms of furniture and decor, it's actually Kitchen Stuff Plus that's in first place. And overall, this sector is largely stable. It's not as affected by price perceptions as some of the other sectors that we have seen, most likely because it's not somewhere that you shop every day for everyday items. So they basically sort of escape a little bit of that trend in terms of negative price perceptions. It used to be Sleep Country was in the first place in the furniture and decor, but this year it's Kitchen Stuff Plus. In electronics, interestingly enough, Samsung is in first place in front of Apple Store by almost 8 points. We were presenting the results for Quebec today, and it was the opposite. It was Apple, the Apple Store in Quebec, that was number one. And the main reason is that there's a significant decline in Apple's results this year compared to last. And it's mostly due to perceptions of overcrowding, availability of staff, long waits, that is basically negatively impacting Apple Store's scores this year. In terms of hardware, BMR is in first place with a very enviable score of 86.9. Of course, they have a slightly different business model than some of the other players in that category. They're a bit more like a home hardware as opposed to a Home Depot, if you want to compare. But they are solidly in first place, 20th overall, in front of Home Hardware. And then we see Home Depot, Rona, and Lowe's, all in the 60s with very similar scores as well. If we move on to beauty, here we've got 4 gold stars because everybody knows in the beauty sector, if you don't deliver top-notch in-store customer experience, then you will have issues because the customers expect something when they walk into a beauty store, and you need to deliver on those. So Lush, Body Shop, we've mentioned them, Max Cosmetics, Bath and Body Works as well are there. And then we see all of the other ones, even Sephora with a score of almost 86. All of them are actually excellent in terms of delivering in-store experience. But again, it's a highly competitive sector when it comes to delivering that in-store experience. And this is one of the sectors as well where price has had the most negative impact at one end, but also one of the sectors where the quality of service delivered by the staff that's on the floor is actually extremely important. In arts and crafts, Lee Valley, no need to say any more about them. Score of 96.3 overall. Lego at 91 is the first in terms of games and toys. We've mentioned them as well. Ren's Pets. Ren's, again, a little bit of a decline in terms of PetSmart, but overall fairly stable in terms of scores. Ren's Pets is the one that actually moves up at 91.5 overall. In terms of telco stores, prices overall, if you not price, but I mean scores overall tend to be slightly lower than what we see in other industry sectors. It's mostly because of price. When people are actually looking to switch their service from one supplier to the other, they're looking for a price point very often. And usually price comparison is the number one thing people will actually do. And that's why the scores tend to be overall slightly lower. However, this year, it's showing sort of a lot of stability compared to last year with the lineup of suppliers actually sort of moving around. Kudu is moving down a little bit, but on service more than on price. So there are some movements, but stability overall for the telco sectors. In terms of natural products, Sage is number 1, again, with a score of 92.7, which is very high as well. M&M Foods for the specialty foods sector, very high scores as well. Then we move to chocolate and coffee. That's basically we go there to treat ourselves. Again, a little bit like beauty, you expect that sort of top-notch in-store customer experience because that's what the smell, the look, you basically want to you want to drive purchase based on ambiance in the store. And 4 of them are exceptional at that. Lindt, Purdy's, David's Tea, we already mentioned, as well as Nespresso. But even there, Rocky Mountain Chocolate at 85.1 is actually close. Chocolat Favori at 83.8. So all of these are actually delivering exceptional in-store experience as well. For sports and outdoors, Arc'teryx is number 1 at 83.7. They actually last year it was Decathlon in first place, but look at how close these scores are. If you drop by a couple of points, like Decathlon, you move from 1st to 7th place, and for Arc'teryx, you move into first place with a couple of points increase in your overall score, because between the number 1 and the number 7, again Decathlon, there's only 7 points separating the top 7 players, so very competitive in that sector as well. Women's apparel, we've already talked about Pennington's. All of the other ones are fairly sort of, quite a step behind in terms of delivering overall experience. In the unisex apparel, Lacoste is now number 1 at 76.3. In terms of what Lacoste actually makes them sort of win in that sector is overall in terms of delivering ambiance in the store, in that unisex apparel. They are clearly the number one in the sector itself, and they're rewarded for it. Their score is slightly down from last year, but they're still number one and holding on strong. For men's apparel, we've got Moores in first place. Close behind Harry Rosen, Indochino as well at 73.8, but Moores remains number one. And in terms of shoe, we then have Softmuck in first place at 73.4. And one of the reasons why they are there, it's not only price, which we would have expected. They do very well on price, perceptions of price, but they do exceptionally well on service as well, which makes them number one in the shoe sector. Now let's move on to Western Ontario. Not Western Ontario, sorry, Western Canada. What was I saying? So in Western Canada, we have a smaller lineup of retailers, but very interesting to see results in Western Canada. It's our second year doing the WOW in the West, and we're expanding it this year. We'll be expanding it again next year as well. So we'll get very quickly, because I don't want to take too much of your time. Let's go to the methodology first. So 6,000 respondents in Western Canada, 15 plus. Basically, each retailer that you will see is evaluated by about 300 recent visitors to the stores in British Columbia, Alberta, Saskatchewan, or Manitoba. Basically following the same methodology, same questionnaire, pretty much the same data collection window as well. So same process that we apply in the West that we will for the WOW Ontario or the WOW Quebec that was presented this morning. In terms of alcohol, we have Wine and Beyond in first place with a score of almost 96, so exceptionally well positioned. All about service as well. They do exceptionally well in our number one, but very close behind them is Everything Wine at 93.7, and the other players actually playing into the mixed. Now, of course, in terms of alcohol, the lineup of competitors is very different out west, and it varies by province compared to what we would see as the major monopolies in Quebec and in Ontario. But again, very positive scores for Wine and Beyond and Everything Wine. For department stores, Costco is number one in Western Canada with a score of 72.4, and all of the other ones are actually fairly far behind. Costco is way in front of the other stores on price perceptions, loyalty initiatives, which we know are part of the Costco business model. In terms of grocery, Choices Market is number one at 74.1. Very close competition with Fresh Street Market at 72.4, Whole Foods at 71.1, Co-op Food at 70.1. So you see everybody sort of in that same sort of small gap in terms of overall WOW scores. And what we're seeing is, again, in Western Canada, the discount banners tend to have a slight bump in their scores, whereas the sort of higher price point grocery players tend to have a little decline in their scores compared to last year. In terms of pharmacy, Guardian is number one, Medicine Shop second, Remedies RX in third. Again, smaller square footage pharmacies tend to deliver better or do better in terms of overall WOW scores due to the availability, attentiveness of staff. There's one variable that's not part of the overall WOW score, but is the feeling that you are actually, that people recognize you when you walk into the store. And this is where the smaller pharmacies actually sort of are best in class in getting that feeling that they know you when I walk in, or they know me when I walk in. In terms of furniture and electronics, Apple Store is number one at 79.9, and IKEA in second place at 72.1. In hardware, Home Depot is first in Western Canada, but scores tend to be fairly low for the hardware sector as well in Western Canada, one of the most impacted by price perceptions, as we mentioned earlier, over this past year. In terms of sports, the Running Room is first with a score of 82.6. MEC is very close behind, Western Canadian-based company as well at 80.5. Lululemon, also from out west at 75.6. And then you see all of the other players that are part of the mix. And finally, in terms of specialty stores, much like Ontario, Sage is doing exceptionally well in Western Canada with a score of 93.9. Lindt also doing very well at 87. Nespresso at 85.7, and Purdy's as well. So again, we saw they were getting that gold star for Ontario. They're getting that gold star as well in Western Canada for our WOW index. Now, I've already talked too much. I want to sort of send it back over to Santo and Luke. If you want more information on the WOW study, whether it's for Ontario, Western Canada, or both, please contact us directly. We'll be happy to share what is part of the actual report for the WOW as well. Stay tuned for Thursday at the same time at noon Eastern. We will have the WOW digital presentation, and we can tell you a lot more about that study if you wish to contact us. And as well, if you're interested in voice of customer programs, we have a CX division that handles voice of customer programs for major retail banners, also available to discuss that as well. But now I'll turn it over back to Santo for the Q&A section.
Thank you, Christian. What an amazing study, and what a great roster of retailers, and congratulations to all those that ranked. This is your opportunity to ask any questions you may have by putting them in the Q&A. We do have one question, Luke, regarding why Walmart is not seen in the ranking.
I do believe they were in the ranking for we may have missed it. Let me just go back for department store. Yeah, there they are.
There they are.
Yeah, we are there. Yeah.
Yeah. That's great. We do have another question on any insights on the impact of card-linked offers on in-store experience or loyalty?
We don't have evidence in the data itself. Luke, I don't know how you feel about that potential impact, because it's not something that we measure directly. But
Okay, will there be a telecom section for Western Canada in 2024?
Yes, we're looking to expand in 6 sectors for next year, and telco is one that we want to have on board as well. So yes.
Yeah, that would be great. Yes. Where can someone see the Quebec rankings? That's I guess the next webinar, right?
That was the one this morning.
The one this morning.
Yes.
If that person wants to communicate their email address, we can send them the actual recording of the session for Quebec. Of course, it's in French, but if you want the recording and if you want the actual same or very similar presentation to what we gave here, we will send that over to you if you give us your coordinates.
And I believe someone is responding to them right now.
Perfect.
Do you offer similar studies for luxury retail in Canada?
Right now, well, it's tough because to actually make in terms of feasibility, we need the actual sort of retail base in terms of presence and in terms of incidence of visits to be high enough so that they actually register. Yeah. We did at some point have some luxury retailers, but it was very hard for us to actually reach that 300 respondent or more for retailers that are very specific. Would love to have Burberry on there, but not a lot of people in Ontario shop at Burberry overall. So there's a bit of an issue in terms of feasibility for those very sort of niche retailers that it's very hard for us to reach enough of their shoppers to actually have robust results.
Is there any insights as to why franchise-based stores tend to do poorly compared to higher ranking store or brands?
We would need to look at that overall, because in some sectors you are right, but in others it tends to be franchisee models that tend to be on top. And what's interesting though is that the franchisee model seems to work better in terms of WOW results in Quebec as opposed to Ontario. Possibility is that the local ownership might have a different impact in terms of in-store experience in Quebec than it would have in Ontario. But we would need to actually look at that and make it sort of in the data and look in greater detail if that holds up, because we do see in certain sectors that would be right, but not necessarily in others. So I don't have a definitive answer, but it's certainly a line of inquiry we should actually look into.
Right. Yeah, that's a good point.
Mm.
Although there are 6 factors, the indicator that seems to move the needle the most was promotion and perceived cost. Is this a trend or an observation, you think?
Well, it's a difference in the data that we observed this year as opposed to the last few
Right.
years. In most sectors, if you look at the data a couple of years ago, price was not in the top 5. Now,
Yeah.
it doesn't mean that price wasn't important. Price is always important, but it's the importance of price in terms of driving overall experience and net promoter score. So, and these are people that choose to go to that store. So if I choose to go to a store that has a higher price point, I know that already as a customer. So it's what we're seeing now is that even though you sort of knew what to expect before walking into the store in terms of pricing, people are walking out saying, you know what, it was an irritant for me when I was into the store. So what we are seeing is that even people, if they pre-shop prior to going to the store, they know what to expect in terms of pricing. They are showing that just looking at the prices in the store is actually having an impact on their loyalty to different banners. And this is new this year. Even last year was not so so much, but this year actually this is something that's quite new.
Makes sense. We have a couple of questions related to auto dealers. Have you considered surveying retail automotive? And is there any category that the auto dealers would fall under today anyway?
Well, the issue is, and the reason why we haven't, is we don't know at what level would we actually study them. Are we looking for Dumont Chrysler, or are we looking at Chrysler dealerships? Because of the ownership structure of dealerships across Canada, it's a very tough one to measure. Again, do we measure at the brand level or do we measure at the dealer level? If we do it at the dealer level, then we have issues of feasibility that makes it almost impossible. So that's the reason why we've sort of stepped back and haven't looked at that sector.
Interesting. One final question. Was there any difference or general trends between Canadian stores and global brands in Canada?
That's a tough one. I don't know, Luke, if you
Yeah.
have any sort of indication. The affordability crisis has hit pretty much all Western countries, but Canada may be more in terms of individual debt levels are higher in Canada than they are in G8 countries. So would we see similar results in other countries if we were to look at the same indicators? I don't know.
Yeah, it'd be good, I guess, to look at those brands that are specifically Canadian, like, you know, Purdy's as an example, Ren's Pets, compared to some of the brands that are Canadian in Canada but global.
Yeah.
That would be interesting. I wonder if there's bias or perception.
Yeah, that would be interesting. And the issue would be if we could get comparatives within the same retail sector, because they would be on a level playing field.
Yeah, that's an interesting question. And where or how does branding factor into the ranking, the WOW rankings?
Well, we don't measure branding specifically, but of course, branding will have an effect on in-store customer experience. What we measure is how they felt about their last visit. But of course, they would have been impacted by the brand. I only sort of take Nespresso, for example.
Yes, right.
I mean, the branding, it's stamped, there's a stamp of Nespresso, whether it's in their online experience or in-store experience. So of course, branding does matter, although we don't measure it specifically. But I think it plays a pivotal role in terms of in-store experience.
Right.
Yeah, and I would say, just add to that there are certain key dimensions that have a branding component. So for example, in-store signage, clarity of communications, and things of that nature will have a branding component, but they're not purely branding.
Mm-hmm.
Great. Any final words, Luke, before I wrap up? But thank you again, both Luke and and Christian. I take it this will be sent out to every participant as a link?
Correct.
Mm-hmm. But thank you for attending, and thank you, Leger, for your your always excellent deep dive research on this very exciting topic. Congratulations to all the ranked winners and everybody who participated as well. Just a reminder for RCC, to stay up to date with our upcoming events as we enter the winter and spring session. We have our upcoming Retail Secure Conference focused on retail crime and cybersecurity, our Retail Human Resources coming up, as well as our Big Store Conference in May. You can stay up to date at the Retail Council events page. But thank you again, everybody, for attending. And we look forward to those who will join us for the digital reveal on Thursday.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you all.
Thank you, everybody.